The lakes that encircle Mount St. Helens were covered with ash and debris, infused with mud and nearly boiled by the May 18th eruption. And yet, plant and animal life is making a comeback. In our continuing series on the recovery from Mount St. Helens eruption, Channel 2's Jim Hyde reports on that progress.
Harmony Falls is the ironic name for this area on the east side of Spirit Lake. There is nothing harmonious here. From the site of Harry Truman's Lodge to the YMCA camp to the site of the lodge and dock at Harmony Falls, there is no indication that any human dreams or realities ever lived here. Nor do biologists hold out much hope for the plants and animals of the lake.
With its location and with the pyroclastic flow that went into it from the volcano, the chances of fish surviving there are very small.
Only a few insects are obviously alive here. For the simplest plant and animal life to return, Bruce Crawford and his colleagues are urging that floating log debris be removed. This would allow sunlight and heat into the water to begin rebuilding the food chain. The rocks are bright but inorganically colored, with minerals newly exposed to the atmosphere. Other snow-fed streams run clear, but Harmony Falls is ashen gray and still stinks of sulfurous gases. Spirit Lake. Biologists have not studied the life here, such as it may be, very much. They've been concentrating instead on waters that are more accessible. Nine miles northwest of the crater, Fawn Lake sits like a dirty puddle. Before the blast, it must have appeared a singular oasis amid the clear-cut Weyerhaeuser timberlands. Today, only a few snags stand out against the sullen sky. Persistent snows don't contribute much to the hope of renewed life. But on a visit to Fawn Lake yesterday, Crawford and Bob Lucas of the game department tested the waters with sonar equipment.
This is the bottom here, tracking here, and we were drifting across the lake, and this is as you get towards shore. Of course, it shallows up. These little blips you see here, these little black specks, are fish in the water.
So they set a gill net in the lake. Pulling it up today, out came more than a dozen eastern brook trout. The species is periodically planted in the alpine lakes.
I'd say this is good for eastern brook trout. We'll have to know, we'd have to age them to know for sure just how old they are and how long it took them to get this size, but that's about a 9.5, 10-inch fish, and judge for yourself. Does he look skinny? Maybe a little bit, but not too bad. We'll cut him open in a minute and look inside just to see how much fat they have.
A few minutes of hood-top dissection produces encouraging results. Examination of the ear bones indicates these fish are 3 years of age.
It lays down rings in that ear bone as rings of growth. And by taking that ear bone and putting it under a microscope, you can count how old the fish is.
Their size is about normal for this time of year, and despite the murkiness of the water, the trout are finding something to eat. Apparently, the food chain in this lake is bent, but not broken.
Of course, attached to the logs.
The plankton and larvae that the fish eat, in turn, must feed on simpler life forms.
The lower animals eat this aquatic algae, this aquatic grass, and then the higher carnivorous types feed on the grazers. And trout are carnivorous, and they feed on the tiny water fleas and copepods and insects that eat this kind of algae.
Crawford concludes that the question is not if life will return to normal here, but when. The key factors are turbidity of the water and the development of new organic material on the ash-covered lake bottom. Similar acts of the same drama are being played out at other lakes that dot the devastated zone. These days, the fastest route from the high lakes to the big reservoirs on the south side of Mount St. Helens is through the air. En route, a herd of elk appears. Scientists are wondering how many of these largest of local forest creatures have survived, whether the elk will have enough forage, or if they might indeed overgraze and overpopulate without the normal access of hunters. In the devastated zone, this herd is not the subject of such speculation. They didn't survive the May 18th blast. On the south side of Mount St. Helens are the largest, most popular lakes, Swift, Yale, and Merwin. Formed by dams of the Pacific Power and Light Company and stocked with fish, the recreational opportunities here are keys to the local economy. Though these waters have not been damaged as severely as those in the devastation zone, the same principles apply. Swift Reservoir is closest to the mountain. Many of the planted rainbow trout were flushed away by the muddy runoff from the volcano. The muck also killed off the plankton on which the fish feed. The turbidity kept the life and the warmth of the sun from promoting new growth. Biologist Susie Graves estimates there were 2 million fish in Swift last year. Now, perhaps 100,000. Those range from trout to suckers. Swift empties into Yale Lake. Graves describes the problem there.
But when November came and they generated a lot of water from Swift into Yale, the visibility went down to 3 inches. And at that time of year, it should have been 30 feet. Well, now the visibility is 22 inches, and it should be at this time of year 27 feet. So there is a great decrease in visibility, and consequently it has impacted the plankton, which is a food source of the fish, and so consequently also the fish are small.
The most popular fish in Yale had been the kokanee, a tasty little variety of landlocked salmon. But on the first day of fishing season last month, some 140 fishermen caught a total of only 4 kokanee. The previous year, there were 70 kokanee caught for every 100 fishermen on opening day. The problem is the lack of plankton. The kind and amount of available kokanee food can be determined by towing a special device behind the boat. Graves' analysis of the results is not encouraging.
But there are a few plankters in there, very small in size.
As a result, the fish have to spend more time searching for smaller varieties of plankton instead of eating bigger ones and getting fatter faster. The scarcity of the plankton that are the beginning of the food chain does not promise well for the development of healthy fish. The first of the gill nets that Susie set yesterday came up empty. Now we'll check the second one.
Here they are. Yes, here they are. See, this is the nursery area. Look at how small they are. These are 2.5-year-old kokanee. They should be, at this time in their life, they should be 9.5 to 10.5 inches, 160 to 200 grams. And these are only 6.5 to 7.5 inches, and they're 55 to 75 grams.
An osprey has made its nest near the place where a snow-fed creek empties into the reservoir. Much of the clear water comes from the Mount Adams watershed and makes it possible for the osprey or fish hawk to see its quarry. And the algae, plankton, and insects that sustain the fish grow well in the clear water. But as we return from the mouth of the stream, the turbid water takes over again. Again, the elements of the food chain are intact, but the redevelopment will be gradual.
As the summer progresses, we get a lot more rain, and as the reservoir stratifies, it will clear, but I think it'll probably be about August. So your best fishing will be in the fall on these reservoirs. Susie
Graves estimates it'll be 4 to 7 years before these reservoirs return to normal. Roughly the same figures are heard for the alpine lakes, such as Fawn. And for Spirit Lake, the sparks of life likely exist there too, but will take even longer to develop. Now, all the speculation as we approach the first anniversary of the big blast is based on the continued good behavior of the volcano. In one catastrophic instant, Mount St. Helens reached out and tried to smother the high lakes. And for the next several years at least, the mountain will be releasing its grip only gradually. On the slopes of Mount St. Helens, this is Jim Hyde reporting for Channel 2 News.
Tomorrow, the rivers from reporter Pat Wilkins.